Think about the virtual meetings that you've attended recently. Were you perhaps distracted by your cell phone? Did you drift off? Or did you just wonder why they were having this meeting during your time zone lunch hour when you could have easily watched it in a recorded version? No leader wants their virtual meeting to be thought of like that. And so it's important that as a leader, you're able to create an environment that feels as real as possible. This short video is going to take you through 3 tips on how you as a leader can conduct an online virtual meeting and make it feel a little bit more like it's in person. So let's get started. Now, I'm not going to start with pre-reads, agendas, time limits, etc., because you're an established leader and you understand those things. What I am going to talk about are personal things that you manage during the meeting. So the first one, it's how you start your meeting. So do you start your meeting just going into your agenda, or do you start it like you would if you were in person? What I mean by that is as people come onto the call, are you reading their names out loud? Are you saying, "Welcome, Zach. So glad you're here, Jenna." Making sure that you are greeting them as they enter the meeting makes a lot of sense, especially if your meeting's under 25 people. It gets a little tough when it gets larger, but even doing some of those introductions makes a difference. Another tip under starting it off right is to ask a question. You can simply ask a question of your group that requires a one-word answer, and they can start using that chat box. Example, how's everyone feeling today? Or tell me what you did that was interesting over the last week. Then you have to stop and wait and allow them the time to actually enter their answers. As those answers start coming in, reading them out loud by name. "Hey, Todd, that's great that you were able to complete a paper you've been working on." Or, "Joe, we're really pleased that yesterday was a very productive day." Or, "Carolyn, what a great way to do a virtual meeting yesterday." Making sure that you're commenting on what they're doing is huge. Now, is this an icebreaker? Somewhat, but it's not the typical icebreaker that we think of in large training sessions. It's just a way to get your meeting going, just like you would if you were in person. The second tip is all about you as a leader. Now, the entire time, you're in a small box being looked at. And so you have to remember that you are on camera the entire time. So 3 quick tips under that. First of all, smile. It may be tough to do, but it's so important to smile and let the folks know you're glad to be with them. And that doesn't take much. You might have to practice, but I'm sure you can do it. Secondly is recognizing that the human mind can listen to about 10 minutes of nonstop talk before they've had enough. Even the best speakers known to man can become tiresome after about 10 minutes. Now, the research from TEDx says 18 minutes, but the majority of researchers put that time limit at 10, some even 7, and most of us, quite frankly, can probably do about 5. So how do you break it up? There are a number of ways. You can ask questions. Again, have the team go into the chat box. You can allow them to provide you with an audio type of reply, or you can have another speaker. Have a different speaker come on board. You can have visuals after 5 to 7 minutes. Anything that breaks it up is important. So smile, breaking it up. And the last one is to think about, what does your resting, listening face look like? There are people who, when they're listening, are listening so intently, they appear to be angry. And you're going to be looked at when others are talking. So remembering that, work very hard on your resting face, nod your head to demonstrate listening, and just remember you're on camera the entire time. And the last tip I'll share with you is remember to appreciate and recognize those who are doing great work. There are 2 ways to do this. As people are providing input to the meeting, call on them by name, recognize their contributions in a very sincere way. So if Suzanne wants to provide some type of great input, call on her by name and thank her by name. It's also important to include formal recognition during your virtual meeting. Now, one thing about recognition, if you continue to recognize the same players week after week or call after call, it will have the opposite effect. There's an entire body of literature and research called organizational justice, and it has to do with fairness and how the manager interacts with the team. So as a leader, you're going to want to recognize different people on each call. Now, this may require that you maintain a spreadsheet where you track who you've recognized and who you haven't. And you know what? That's okay. No one has to know about that spreadsheet but you. But that is very important. So those are the 3 simple tips to keep it real. First is to open up in an engaging way. Second is to remember you and how you look on camera. And lastly is to recognize and appreciate everyone. I appreciate you all listening to this, and I hope you have a great next virtual meeting.